Welcome back. We're continuing to discuss the conflicting perspectives surrounding the Nobel Peace Prize nomination of the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement by a far-left Norwegian lawmaker. Still with me in studio, Israeli activist Hen Mazzig, and from New York, Jewish Voice for Peace Executive Director Rebecca Vilkomerson. Rebecca, Israel says it can't afford to withdraw from the West Bank, for example, because of the threat to its national security. Do you believe that if Israel were to end its military occupation there, we would see an end to Palestinian violence towards Israel and resistance, as they would call it?
Look, this occupation has been going on for over 50 years, and it's against international law. And I think the demand for full freedom and independence of people living under occupation is one that's recognized around the world. Of course, we can't predict exactly what would happen if that were to end, but certainly the reason that people are resisting the occupation is because they aren't free and because their lives are incredibly constrained by the occupation. And so the calls for the end of occupation, I think, are incredibly just, and not just for Palestinians. I think the lives of Israelis. You open the show, of course, with this terrible murder of this man who was killed today, and we're not going to see an end to this kind of violence as long as, they were already living with this kind of violence. And so the idea of starting over on a plane where everybody has an opportunity to live in freedom, I think, is something that'll be good for both Israelis and Palestinians.
What do you say to that, Hen?
Well, when she talks about occupation, she doesn't talk about the West Bank. She talks about all of Israel. That's what JVP's agenda is about. It's about free Palestine from the river to the sea. So she supports a one-state solution. Her organization, at least, supports a one-state solution, and that's what they're fighting for. When she talks about a terrorist attack today, she can't even condemn the terrorists. She can't even say that it's a Palestinian fault. She blames Israel when she talks about it, and she says that if the occupation would end, the violence would end. Well, I have to tell you that the violence started way before Israel's creation. My family was subject for harassment and oppression in the Middle East, in Iraq and in North Africa, because they were Jewish. So it's not a conflict about where the borders are, and we've done it before, by the way. We pulled out 9,000 people out of Gaza. 9,000 Jews were ethnically cleansed from Gaza to give it to the Palestinians in a hope for peace, and we saw exactly what we ended up with. We ended up with a terrorist organization that hurts Palestinians more than it hurts Israelis, and she said before we went to break that she doesn't care if some Palestinian will get hurt, because it's in the long term it will be worth it for them. Well, I care about Palestinians and I care about Israeli lives, which seems like Rebecca doesn't.